Well, if one looks at the genesis of this industry, which goes way back to 1995, Malta has come a long way. And clearly, particularly over these last 10 years, it has been a paradigm shift for the industry because we've seen the internationalization of the sector as against the industry being led for its first 10 years, by way of the domestic demand and the domestic market. Post Malta's membership in the EU, which took place in 2004, that's 10 years ago, we've seen continuous traction in the clustering of asset management, fund administration, and even the funds themselves. In fact, in 2014, we have had so far over 620 funds which have been domiciled in Malta. There are, in fact, just under 140 licenses issued by the Malta Financial Services Authority, which includes and covers asset managers, advisors, and custody operators, as well as 28 fund administrators. The greatest majority of them are foreign-owned operators that have set up in Malta to service not only Malta-based funds, but also to service funds domiciled in other jurisdictions. The same can be said to the asset management cluster as well, and it is estimated that these are servicing no less than about 30 billion euros worth of assets in funds which are not domiciled in Malta, but domiciled outside of Malta. So the industry has gained significant traction this last decade. And I think the greatest endorsement was the award for Malta as the most favored European fund domiciled by a preeminent publication. The great majority of these funds are intrinsically hedge funds. And if one looks at the strategies employed by the fund managers that have set up these funds in Malta, they vary markedly. From long short to distressed debt to arbitrage, global macro, high frequency trading funds, algorithmic funds as well. So there is no particular skewness to any one particular strategy. Malta has also seen a number of PE funds that have been established here, as well as VC funds. And we're also seeing of late interest in the real estate and infrastructure side of the fund structuring. There are various reasons why business is coming to Malta. I mean, clearly the regulatory side is somewhat homogenized with the introduction of directives such as the UCITS directive and also the AFMD directive. But there are a number of factors, what I deem as being differentiating factors, that are positioning Malta as an attractive fund domicile. Clearly, the presence of a single regulatory body, the Malta Financial Services Authority, which is found by many of the fund sponsors and fund promoters to be very accessible and pro-business, is a critical factor in this regard. And it is clearly a breath of fresh air for many fund sponsors to find a regulator to provide the necessary clarity on matters concerning regulations. Secondly, Malta is very, very cost competitive. And I can say this not only insofar as the setting up of a scheme in Malta, but more so in the ongoing servicing costs of a scheme, which covers, the cost of audit firms, the cost of fund administrators, the cost of custodians and directors. And Malta, in my view, has no competition insofar as the startup hedge funds are concerned. We're very competitive in that space, and we're seeing this not only at the fund level, but also at the asset management side, where we're seeing increasingly traction in the number of asset management licenses that are being issued by the regulator. Thirdly, insofar as the operational infrastructure is concerned, it's quite developed. The top 4 audit firms are all very well present here, equally medium-tier audit firms. We have quite a number of legal firms which are very much well connected to their European peers. I mentioned earlier the presence of a number of fund administrators on the market. So clearly there is the servicing infrastructure to support the growth of the industry going forward. Well, I think if there's one word that one would use for the regulatory overhaul, it's challenging. It is a challenging environment not only for the stakeholders of the industry, that is the service providers, the fund managers, the administrators, the custodians, to get to grips with the implications of the regulations coming our way. as these are clearly impacting our business and operational models. I think Malta is faring well. We're a small country, which makes us nimble. And we can act very fast to enable, time to market, efficient time to market for clients. In fact, Malta ranks first alongside Denmark in its efficiency in transposing directives into national legislation. And I think here kudos to the regulator in Malta that has kept Malta at the forefront in enabling fund sponsors and fund promoters to establish funds in Malta. Well, being small presents its challenges, clearly in terms of the workforce. Malta has a population of 420,000 people with a workforce of around 170,000. So clearly one has to ensure that as this industry continues to grow, and we're just talking about the hedge fund sector here or the funds industry and the complementary service providers such as asset managers and even administrators, ensuring that we have the sufficient headcount to service the growing needs of this industry is a challenge for Malta. Nonetheless, this is a manageable challenge, and the government and the previous government as well, the current government and the previous government, have launched a number of initiatives to ensure that we have a skilled workforce to service the needs of the industry. Secondly, insofar as this challenge is concerned, we are a member of the EU. So it has become now common that when we issue a call to recruit persons, we get applications from employees in other EU member states that would want to come and live and work in Malta. And I think that is the safety valve insofar as this issue, as this challenge is concerned. Then there is the challenge of the regulation that I mentioned earlier. And clearly there again, government is working very hard with the regulator to ensure that we transpose the respective directives into national legislation in a timely manner. Malta is equally an island. Its physiognomy, it presents its own challenges. So it was important for the island to develop good connectivity with other European cities. So Malta has, around 6 flights daily to London. We have daily flights to Rome, flight connections to Milan, to Zurich, to France, and quite a number of international airlines, use Malta as a destination to carry passengers to the island. And that is very, very important for countries which have an island physiognomy like Malta. If we were to be based on, historical performance, we've so far managed to register, very, very strong growth in the funds industry. I distinctly remember that in 1995, one could describe the industry with one word, one, because we had one fund, we had one fund manager, and we had one custodian on the island. The state of play today is completely different. We have a growing number of funds being established in Malta. We're increasingly seeing service providers establish their operation in Malta and servicing Malta-based funds, but also servicing funds domiciled in other jurisdictions. So we have the supporting cluster formations in the service provision side. And I think it's a nicely developed ecosystem, of service providers, which I think augurs well, for the growth of the industry. I think Malta has a very compelling value proposition for fund sponsors and the fund managers that want to register an operation here or want to set up a fund in Malta. And clearly, I think that will take the industry to new heights going forward.